Movies. We all love them, and we also have a certain level of expectation when it comes to our favorite genre, or our favorite genres. Or maybe you're absolutely batshit fucking insane and you love every single genre, and subgenre, and sub-subgenre, and subgenre implies the existence of dom genre. But that's an entirely different list of movies that I can't talk about, and I can't show you any footage of, because otherwise I'll get blind. The whole point is we also just want to be entertained by movies at the end of the day. But some of us that really dive into movies have expectations that aren't here. They're all the way to the sun, do-do-do-do. They're to the sun, and I say, all right, give me more and more and more. And oh man, I shouldn't have looked directly at the goddamn sun because now I can't see. Also, our expectations go to the moon. They could fly us to the goddamn moon. And our expectations from there could come crashing back down to just decent. Or our expectations from over there could go all the way down, down, down into the earth. Boom, boom, boom. And we could say, man, I really expected something a whole lot goddamn better. I wanted a different kind of movie with blackjack and hookers. In fact, forget the movie. The whole point is we can all be surprised, we can all be disappointed by movies, we can also just have our expectations just met. But the thing is when a movie has so much anticipation and it beats us into the goddamn ground, well, that's what I'm here to talk about. Whew, boy. I'm John Redland with my 10 most disappointing movies of 2024 list with some honorable mentions. All of these have been reviewed in full on Letterboxd and on the Real Honest Movie Reviews playlist. And let me know your most disappointing movies of the year in the comments. So, just going to give a bit of sprinkling of these honorable mentions and then get into the top 10. So, yeah, Cuckoo, Hunter Schafer, Neon Studios, a kooky, crazy premise. All the ingredients were there, and they were half-baked. There were a couple things that sort of worked. Unfortunately for me, this movie tried to be a little bit out there without earning, its particular scares or its, weird... it's weird aura that it has. It tries to establish that it's going to be different than other horror movies. Unfortunately, it kind of just ends up falling back in on the same particular tropes. And I was excited about this one because Neon Studios usually delivers. This is not the only time I'm going to mention Neon Studios. But, yeah, despite those components, there were a couple decent scenes. But the movie lost me pretty early on. Didn't really get it back. And also, I'm sorry. Just the more it tried to be like, we're going to be crazy and kooky and everything. And yeah, for a movie being kooky, it was pretty goddamn pedestrian. Twisters. Never were there such devoted twisters. You have Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, and you have Anthony Ramos, and you have the legacy to live up to of the 1996 original, which I liked. I really liked. Now, granted, I was 15. I rewatched it in the past couple years, and I have really enjoyed Twisters. It has been pretty goddamn entertaining. And actually, even recently rewatched it just before this happened, maybe a month before this came out. And yeah, I'd like to know what the fuck they were thinking here, because they basically just rehashed the original without, having good enough characters to carry the thing on. There was a lot of chemistry between the crews of at least, the good guys, Bill Paxton, Linda Hunt is what I almost said. Imagine Linda Hunt trying to drive a vehicle. Helen Hunt, that is. And just a lot of really good, good components there. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece as far as a narrative, but it's fun. This wasn't fun. Twisters was not fun. I found it really, really goddamn annoying. Now, bless Glenn Powell. He's in a whole lot of movies, and he is succeeding and doing great things, and that's great. The problem is, this movie fucking sucked. It really fucking sucked. I didn't find the action scenes interesting at all. A Quiet Place Day 1, Lupita Nyong'o, and New York City game besieged by the creatures that hunt by sound. Sounds good. It wasn't. The cat was okay. That's great. But for a movie that wanted to show us what happened the day the world went quiet, they did a better job establishing what happened on day one in the beginning of A Quiet Place Part 2 than they did this. This just ended up kind of being more of the same. Didn't really expand on anything, and the more they tried to show the creatures, I'm sorry, they looked pretty goddamn goofy. The movie was a success as far as box office, but no, didn't really care for this one. Unfortunately, it wasted Lupita's acting ability. So there we are. The First Omen. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. I thought that the trailer didn't look all that great, but when I was seeing, a lot of high praise from critics and even from early test screenings. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a goddamn shot. We have Ralph Ineson, we have other key components that the lead actress, has great potential as being a leading woman, and there were elements that you could make work in a prequel to a movie that you could argue really didn't need a prequel. The problem is we all know where this is going to end up being, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for this movie to kick it into gear or to justify all this praise, and it didn't. I actually was kind of amazed that The First Omen was so goddamn boring, because I didn't have that high expectations to begin with. And it didn't even meet those. And I mean, maybe I shouldn't listen to the critics all the goddamn time, but still, this movie ended up being a titanic disappointment, and having the ending okay, yeah, we knew how this was going to end, so let's at least have a good lead up to, oh no, let's just limp along and drag ourselves across the goddamn finish line. Like we're the half of 2.5 Men from that Family Guy sketch. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Loved the 1984 one. Liked the 1989 one. Afterlife had McKenna Grace pretty much shining, and she's going to be tremendous if she sticks with acting. Really, some child actors just fucking get it. She fucking gets it, and she was one of the best parts of that whole thing. Actually, arguably the best part. And you do have these you do have the nostalgia factor for Afterlife. The problem with Frozen Empire is it basically nerfs everything that happened, that worked in the first one, which wasn't really all that much, and kind of just feels like a retread of the 1984 one, but without the proper, without properly earning that, and it doesn't use legacy characters properly. The villain sucks, really, really sucks. Yeah, I don't necessarily understand what they were thinking here, and I didn't have high expectations for this, and this somehow managed to even not meet those, because I thought this movie wasn't going to be great, and within the first 15 minutes I said, oh, this ain't even going to meet my expectations of thinking this won't be good. It was downright god-awful. So now let's get into the proper top 10. Mean Girls. It's a musical based on the popular musical after the 2004 movie came out, and look, I didn't expect much from this, but I thought, I love the first Mean Girls. You have a new crop. You have Tina Fey looking as only she can look. And I thought, new crop of young actresses, maybe you can make this work. One of the others was, one of those girls was in Tarot, by the way. I forget her name, is really hard to pronounce. I do remember that. But I went in thinking, okay, this might be mildly entertaining, but it's probably not going to be as good as the 2004 edition. And it didn't end up even being a fun musical. Now, the characters were any good. Any of the attempts to call back to the original were not good. I do not understand why they thought this finished product was proper to release in theaters. But, some people liked it, and that's fine. That's fine if you liked it, but I just was disappointed because I liked the original and at least wanted mild entertainment from this and didn't even get that. So, number 9, Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Admittedly, Godzilla vs. Kong wasn't all that great, but I had decent expectations, and while they eventually clashed a little bit, it wasn't much. So I thought, okay, we have Rebecca Hall back. I like her. I think she's a great actress. I think she's fucking gorgeous. And I'm like, good. Let's just have these characters that really were kind of all right in Godzilla vs. Kong carry over here. And let's have some epic monster battles. And you know what? They really didn't succeed. Godzilla -1 blew this out of the fucking water. I think U.S. Godzilla movies are never going to succeed like they should. But the thing is expectations weren't necessarily high for this after Godzilla vs. Kong. But I thought, okay, middling reviews, but you know what? Maybe I'll be surprised. And I was by how boring this was. Even when Godzilla and Kong teamed up, I'm like, okay, that's that. The villain wasn't good. They're going to do another one of these. I mean, it makes money, whatever, it is what it is, but I don't get it. I mean, I was hoping that this would exceed what I thought, and it ended up being more disappointing than Godzilla vs. Kong, which I thought was at least all right. I thought this sucked. Abigail. The people involved in Ready or Not, Melissa Barrera, who absolutely deserves all her flowers and all the roles that she can get. She was in Your Monster, which is actually pretty good. Melissa Barrera is extremely talented, but it was bullshit how Spy Class Entertainment, treated her. When she just wanted innocent people to not fucking die. God, what a goddamn, great idea that is. Let's not have innocent people getting mowed down. Spyglass Entertainment then basically fucked up Aaron, and now she's getting roles like this. Also, Catherine Newton, who I adore. I absolutely adore Catherine Newton. She was in Lisa Frankenstein. She's been in other stuff. She is really, really good. Like, I really like her. The thing, and you have like a ballerina vampire. You have stuff that could work here. And there are characters that do stupid things, and that's fine in movies like this. But the thing is, it's mostly a one-location shoot. Now, it's a big, expansive place, at least purported to be. But, I don't know. Just something about the Ready or Not earned its laughs and its gore. This felt like it was trying to copy that, but just not nearly as good. And I thought trailer looked entertaining. This could be fun. I like two lead actresses, as I said, and there are other good actors in there, but no. And the fact that they may have implied a sequel that will not end up happening, I think was just even more disappointing. It's like, I don't think you're going to get that. And then we go to number 7, Immaculate. Aha, Neon Studios returns. Look, I made it no secret that Sydney Sweeney is not necessarily one of my favorite actresses. I think she's fine. Like, as far as looks, she looks good. She does. I can't ignore that. I saw some movie, like Blumhouse, I think it was Blumhouse TV and Amazon basically ended up doing that had her in it, and this was like from a few years ago, and I reviewed it back in 2020, and 2021, I totally forgot that I fucking reviewed that. Because I thought I just saw her in stuff like Madam Web and other things before, but I mean, I've seen her in a few other projects, and I'm sorry, I just don't fucking get it. She seems to have a good head on her shoulders, but I don't think she's that good at acting. She is trying to act her ass off here in this bare bones, stripped down thing about, a nun that gets pregnant or a woman that's about to take her vows and everything. That it's stripped down and it's just going to be, gore and insanity and stuff like that. And it felt very muted and it felt very in. I thought the trailer looked okay, but I'm like, Neon Studios is back in this. It's getting a lot of goddamn hype. And by the end, I was like, that's it. That's it. Yeah, the closing shot is decent, but I'm sorry. To get there, it wasn't fucking worth it. The just very generic characters, very, stock story, and really didn't find it scary at all. So, expectations were not met. And then we go to Drive Away Dolls. Margaret Qualley, after doing Sanctuary and The Substance, a little bit later on after this, I thought, okay, Coen's involved, one of the Coen brothers, and you have that irreverent rapid fire style of comedy that Margaret Qualley can do. And her co-star was decent. I mean, there were things that could have worked, but the thing is, this movie felt like something plucked from about 20 years ago that the Coens did. Or, that like anybody that was trying to copy the Coens would do. They would try to like go crazy out there and go for like off-the-wall comedy, and I don't feel that it balanced the off-the-wall comedy, the violence, and that stuff well. I was starting to get really annoyed by it. And Drive Away Dolls, like, even though the trailer I thought looked pretty good, and I was excited because Margaret Qualley was in it, this just ended up being like, oh, this is not funny. There were 3 moments I laughed. Everything else, not very good. So let's go to number 5, The Fall Guy. Okay. Look, I'm going to be perfectly honest. When you got Gosling and you got Emily Blunt, and you got this kind of marketing campaign, they were marketing the fuck out of this movie. I was seeing trailers for this for months on end. And I was excited because I thought it looked funny. It looked like it could actually be a good blend of action comedy with, honoring the hard work of stunt people. And that's great. The thing is as the movie went on, there's an extended cut that I believe is on the Cock. The original cut is way too long. Had this been an hour and 30, hour and 40 minutes, it might have worked, but it's like it had a good opening sequence. It had flashes where I'm like, okay, they're going to capture the magic. They're going to get over this hump. No, they did not get over that hump. That hump. Not even Lovely Lady Lumps. Don't check it out. I'm almost 44 years old and white and quoting the Black Eyed Peas. I wanted to like The Fall Guy. I really, really wanted to. Not just based on the marketing, but based on the components involved. And I just felt that this was just a colossal waste of money. So let's go to In a Violent Nature. Okay, we follow a killer that's resurrected after a locket gets stolen, and he kills people in inventive ways. He kills a few people, and this basically is Friday the 13th if they stretch it the fuck out, literally, in the case of one of the bodies that I call the yoga kill. If you've seen it, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, you'll know what the fuck I'm talking about. One inventive kill does not make a movie good, and I'm sorry, but character-wise, there was nothing to sink your teeth into. Not that I expected that, but when you're marketing, there's something that's supposed to be a little bit different. When you're a horror, yeah, can't really necessarily say that this impressed me. And I was excited about it. I was very fucking excited. And I did not understand the hype. So I'm going to go with The Crow. I'm going to explain why The Crow is at number 3. Because I liked the first one, and I thought after City of Angels is okay, and the other sequels weren't that great, I thought, okay, no, the trailer looked like shit. I mean, you have Bill Skarsgård, FKA Twigs. What kind of name is that? I still can't get over it. Trying to modernize The Crow isn't the worst thing, and honestly, if Brandon Lee had not passed away during the shoot of the first Crow, we probably wouldn't be talking about The Crow nearly as, as highly as we do. But there was potential to make this Crow reboot work. And I had very low expectations for this. I thought, okay, there might be one decent scene out of this, but it's like maybe it'll surprise me. Yeah, and it did. Within the first 5 minutes, I said, oh, this feels like it was plucked from the goddamn late 90s, early 2000s with the special effects. Its ridiculous nature. I do not fucking get how in the world they thought this editing, these special effects, this stuff, and whoever FKA Twigs is. And I know that she went through some shit a few years before, and she shouldn't have gone through that stuff. Shia LaBeouf, just read up on it. But as an actress, Jesus fucking tap dancing Christ, she is terrible. And why is this one of the most disappointing movies? Because it had the potential to at least be entertaining, and it wasn't. You just couldn't help but laugh at it to basically hide the fact that your tears were going to be streaming down your goddamn face because you're like thinking, what have they done? Look how they massacred my boy. Number 2, Gladiator 2. I don't fucking care if this is ranked higher than The Crow because I love the first Gladiator. I rewatched it earlier in November and decided, damn it, I'm going to enjoy this. It was a Regal mystery movie. I got to see it a few days before it got released wide in theaters, right before a massive windstorm hit that knocked out power to like 600,000 people on this side of the state. We were without power for almost a day. It's fine. Credit to the PUD crews. Back to Gladiator 2. Great Denzel Washington, the gorgeous goddesses, Connie Nielsen. You have Denzel Washington again acting his ass off. You have Paul Mescal. You have Pedro Pascal. You have every advantage. A huge budget. Ridley Scott apparently not dead yet. You have all these things that could work, and this is what you did? Like, advancing the story while tying it back to the original is necessary. But all they did was tie it back to the original. It didn't advance the story. Some of the worst emperors, Denzel, while having fun, seems to be acting in a completely different movie. And I'm sorry, Lucius's character, done by, Paul Mescal, just wasn't good enough. It wasn't compelling. Love watching Connie Nielsen, and I liked parts of it. The opening sequence was fine. But even though this was shorter than the first one, it was punishing. And it was very disappointing. Number 1. There she is. It's the birthday girl. The scariest movie of the decade. Long legs. My fucking ass is the scariest movie of the decade. Neon advertised the fuck out of this. Nicolas Cage was at times unhinged in it. He wasn't in it long enough, in my opinion. Ironic for the title. And Micah Monroe, who, I'm sorry, I'm putting her and Sydney Sweeney on the same goddamn pedestal. I do not get it with Miss Monroe. I just don't. Yeah, she was probably supposed to be acting like she was totally in a goddamn fog in this movie, but that's how she's acted in pretty much every movie I've seen her in. And for being marketed as the scariest movie of the decade, I tried not to buy into the hype. But I was seeing this, I remember seeing the teasers, not knowing what the fuck it was, and thinking, okay, this is going to blend Silence of the Lambs and a whole bunch of just crazy horror elements in. It tried. And I'm sorry, like, scariest movie of the decade, my ass. This was not good. Like, the more it went on, and I watched this in a pretty full theater, it's in one of the smaller theaters, but I watched this in a pretty packed house. And I think I was one of the only people that was disappointed by it. And then more stuff has come out where some people were like calling bullshit on that. And don't get me wrong, Neon Studios, MNA24, love them, but good God, y'all. Good God, y'all. Scariest movie of the decade, fuck that. So that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.